Zoom got a whole lot of complications with this thing, man.
Sure do.
Listen, live on Facebook.
That's what it say.
Mm-hmm.
Did we walk it all the way through? Talk to me live. James, okay. I think we cooking, as my grandma would say, with some grease.
All right now.
Grease, Doc. Hot grease.
I said that
That's
earlier.
what my grandma say. You cook it with some grease, Doc.
That's scary.
See if I can big screen that real quick.
I see it on my timeline.
Okay, good deal.
I'm scared.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. You're fine. How
Wait,
the doctor
not
say when you about to
scared.
get it? The doctor said, no, you're fine.
There we go.
All right, cool. I'm trying to see myself. All right, Facebook, if y'all can hear me and I can't see what y'all saying just yet, share with a friend if you don't mind. I can't see y'all, but y'all. There we go. Come on now. Facebook. Work with me. There we go. There we go. Take a little time. All right, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Now, just gotta wait for my. James, do you see anybody commenting yet?
Ooh, my page refreshed. It is. There's one. Somebody said this is awesome.
Okay, whoever that is, let's go.
James, you know everybody. Go ahead and share it on your page.
First of all, mind your business.
Right.
Julie, you know everybody too.
I don't have
Caraway,
Facebook.
what's going on, Caraway? Caraway over there.
Hi, Mr. Caraway.
Dr. Caraway.
Caraway.
Oh. What's up,
Once I can pull it up, we can see what's going on over here. All right, so I can't see right now because my computer is acting slow here. All right, so let's do this while people are commenting. Again, you all were here tonight to talk about study abroad. If you don't know who I am, I'm the founder of the PENS program, and we have a couple of scholars with us tonight to talk about their experience going across the world. And so we want you all to just chime in with us, ask questions. If you have any questions about, how it was for them. And so we're going to go through some introductions real quick. We're going to let Miss Julie Sanyo introduce herself first. Caraway said, I'm just being nosy. No, it's cool, Caraway. Why you being nosy? Just share it.
Right.
We appreciate it.
Hello, everyone. Oh, okay. Sorry.
No.
Okay, you ready for me?
I am ready for you.
Okay. Hey, everyone. My name is Julie Sanyo. I'm a graduating senior from South Carolina State University. And I'm from Columbia, South Carolina.
Awesome. Caleb, you can go next. Right. Dr. Hopkins, how you doing, sir?
Okay, see, people still checking in, I guess. But
yeah,
I'm Caleb Barrett. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and I graduated December 2018 from South Carolina State University, and I'm here to chime in about my experience studying abroad.
Chandler.
Hello, my name is Chandler Frank. I am also a South Carolina State grad, December 2018, and I spent a semester abroad in Amsterdam. And I'm originally from Atlanta.
Awesome. James
Coleman. I'm a 20 graduate of South Carolina State University, originally from Orlando, Florida. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mr. Norwood.
Me, last person, Greg Norwood, from Houston, Texas.
Good deal. All right, so Dr. Hopkins, he just commented, and I think this will be a great conversation starter. since we've all traveled abroad and really dove deep into another culture. And so what does, and anybody can start this one off, what does the world is the classroom? What does that mean to you, that quote, the world is the classroom?
I think that means really taking all opportunities that the world gives us to learn, right? I think there's so many opportunities that we kind of miss to learn certain things. You know, I was in a Bible study a couple days ago. I don't mean to take the church, but I was in a Bible study.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Praise him.
And the guy was talking about the ant and just how the ant behaves within its own kind of colony, whatever you want to call it. And so we look at ants, they're so small and finite that we don't necessarily see a lesson. That's the world being a classroom. We can learn something from the ant. We can learn something from how the sun and the moon rises and all this good stuff. So I think that's what that means. Really take the opportunity to, I guess, get all you can from what is available to us.
Yeah.
To piggyback off of that, I agree with that statement because I feel like studying abroad gave me a larger view of the world around me. Like, of course, you're very comfortable in, the function that you are in, the school that you go to, or the community that you live in. And so getting outside of that comfort zone, I mean, I knew I was going, but when I got to the airport, I wanted to turn around. Like, you don't ever know what you're getting into. You don't know what you're getting into until you really get into it. And so, like, being able to, I think some of the greatest lessons I learned while abroad were outside of the classroom. Like education, I don't want to say education is education, but like, of course you already know what the syllabus is going to give you and what to expect from the classroom, but being able to get outside of your comfort zone and kind of take everything around you as the learning experience or the opportunity that it is, I think that was the most valuable. That's what made everything else the classroom, outside the classroom.
That was good, Chandler.
Yeah.
And
also, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Julie.
Okay. And also, to just piggyback off of them, I think in a nutshell, it doesn't matter where you are, you can always learn something. And I know for me personally, I want to be a doctor, and I know I'm going to meet a lot of different people, and to just understand different people's culture and learn how they work and things like that. I think that's really important, especially being a caregiver and having to, deal with people's lives. Like, you need to be able to know how they work and not just, the American-based culture that we have here. So,
yeah. And just to follow up with that, I know this may sound very childish, but there's a part in the song "Colors of the Wind" from Pocahontas that says, "If you ever walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never knew." So that portion is all that portion of the song always stuck out to me because we live in the American bubble. We have our views, we have our perceptions of things, and our way of life. And it molds how we view things and how we learn, how we participate, and how we interact with others. And going abroad and seeing the different cultures, the different, perceptions of things, how people cook, how people interact with one another, how people view different things, different topics, whether they're taboo or not, it broadens your horizons. It gives you a different outlook. So now instead of saying, well, the Americans think like this, so this is how I'm going to think, you can say, I've seen all these different walks of life think like this, so I can have a more informed consensus of why I feel the way I feel.
Right.
That's a great statement too.
That's great. Yeah.
You made me think about something with that.
Well, just to kind of, for me, as far as me just picking back on what everybody said, I do think of, as far as studying abroad, if you think of a shark can only possibly grow 8 inches in the environment if it's in a small environment. But if you put a shark in the ocean, it'll grow 8 feet. So that's like kind of learning outside of that class. Right. So basically getting the opportunity to see other things. Like, far as me, I know I've been to Africa, I've been to Amsterdam, Paris, but even just going multiple places and be able to connect the dots. Later on, maybe when the question arises, I will kind of explain how I was able to connect the dots with me going to Africa and Paris. But yeah.
No, I think that's great, and I want to kind of sit on this just for a little while with what James said. He was talking about how James said something about how when you go to another place, you don't say that this is just how the United States thinks, or this is how another country or another continent thinks. This is literally how the world views a situation. And I say that to bring this example up. So when we were in Liberia, we went to an orphanage for 2 days. And so, I mean, we were really touched by it. I mean, just the amount of passion, the love that these little kids had. And, you know, you will be so fascinated in the moment by what you see when you're outside of the country, but not realizing that the same disparity that's in another country or that's in another continent is in the US, but we're just unaware of it, you know, to that magnitude. That's true. So that's why I think, James, that's a great point for us to kind of view everything from a holistic perspective. And have you all had any experiences where you were kind of blown away by what you saw in the country? You're like, whoa, this is crazy. I didn't know that happened. Then you kind of realize, okay, this happens in the United States too. Y'all have any examples that y'all can share really quick?
Right. But in Liberia, I would say that it was so familiar in Liberia, but for a moment I was like, wow, these people are out like early in the morning and they're loud and they're out here like on their porch braiding hair. Like, this is totally nothing I've ever seen before.
Right.
Wait a minute. I see this in the hood.
Right.
Exactly.
And so there was like this culture shock, but not at all. Because I'm like, these are my aunties and uncles. This is what we do back at home.
No, seriously.
We have our sip out on the porch, talking loud, laughing and all that stuff. I mean, it's just, and so that culture shock became like, oh man, this is home for sure.
Yeah.
That's just one moment for me.
Okay. That's great. Anybody else have a moment that you can recall?
Same thing with that. When I went to Costa Rica and we went, I can't remember exactly the name of where we went, but we traveled there by boat, and it was a little city off of where we were stationed. And when we got off the boat, people were just greeting us, like, y'all want some food? Like, kids were running around. People were in their pools were dragged out into the street, and the kids were just laughing and dancing and having a good time. And I was like, this feels so friendly and lovable. It kind of made me feel like how I was if I was at school, we're always there to support one another. We're always, just having a good time. And I was like, okay, I can get with this. I like this.
Yeah.
I would say, a lot of times we go places and we try to haggle for prices on certain things. And we were, I was in Thailand and I was trying to haggle for this price for this long tail boat to take me to this island. And I was sitting there arguing this man down like, dang, I am not going to pay that. Like, can you a little bit? And so it reminded me, there's this place in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale called the Swap Shop.
Swap Shop. Oh man.
and that reminds me of like you go there looking for even the smallest thing, like a cell phone case. Like, bro, I'm not paying $20 for that. Can you 15? I'll give you 15. They're like, nah, bro, 17. I'll give you 12 for that.
Right.
So it made it feel like home. It made it feel like home for real.
Yeah.
Well, kind of piggybacking off of that, as I stated earlier, how I was going to connect me going to Africa and kind of being in Paris. So when I went to Africa, basically, my father lived in Senegal, so I was able to go to Senegal, Dakar, and same thing in Senegal. You gotta haggle your way. You gotta negotiate everything. I mean, if you want some water, if they know you're a foreigner, they're gonna charge you higher because you are a foreigner.
That's so true.
So, Demetrius, remember when we were in Paris? In Paris, and outside the Museum Louvre, there was some Africans out there selling
knickknack.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I kind of just listening to them, I understood the dialect, and I was like, man, they sound like they're from Senegal. So I upon me talking to one of them, I was like, negative. That's how you say hello in Senegalese, I guess. And one
negative?
of the negative, yeah, it's negative. And he was like, McAfee. Okay. So I think that's
sheesh, negative.
But I only know, that's all I know. That's all I know.
it's
But
all right.
I was able to use
It's
that
taught us
to
something.
negotiate a price to get those. Remember, we got those Eiffel Towers. I was able to get them for cheaper, so I got it cheaper and walked around and sold it to another. I sold it to another Senegalese for a higher price.
Oh my goodness!
But
I'm screaming.
I'd have been like negative. Dang.
Right. So did anybody else want to say anything before we go to our next question? Sorry, go ahead, Caleb.
Oh no. I was just saying, like, sum that all up. That remind me of like coming from Atlanta, like, because Atlanta is a hustle. Like, everybody has a hustle in Atlanta, and like it just equipped me for being able to go overseas and still using that same mindset. Like, hey, we do this at home, so I can go over here. I understand this. I'm going to use this. I'm going to connect this piece of information I got to what you know to try to get this for cheaper. So
yeah.
But, all right, dude, you got it, my guy.
All right. So before we move forward, I think we have 8 viewers. So if y'all can just share this information, I think it's going to be good for your students, your cousins. If you're a teacher, like I said, your students, your community. Dr. Anderson, how you doing? Caraway's up here. Satyam, haven't seen him in a while. How you doing, man? So we all just need for you to just share this information because I think it's going to get even better as we keep moving forward. So I want to ask you all, with all of the fears that we've heard about traveling, you know, people say that, I mean, even with some of the movies that we watch, you know, it just looks fearful, quote unquote, you know, and people will try to put their fears on you. My question is, what inspired you, or who inspired you to travel abroad? Ooh, say study abroad.
Okay, I'll start.
I said I know the answer to that one.
I'll start. So from a young, I don't want to say from a young age, like from young, but when I was younger, like my parents made sure like we had at least something that they didn't. And so we went on like 1 or 2 cruises, you know, like cruises aren't necessarily like the biggest deal in the world, you know, but to a kid who's never left Atlanta, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to Puerto Rico. You know, like that was something cool to me. And I think that just kind of sparked in me that like, this is something I want to keep doing. Like, I don't remember what cruise it was or who I went. I think it was my parents and like my best friend or something. We went to, one of the stops was in Honduras, and we got to zip line with like these random men we met at the port or whatever. It seemed a little sketchy at the time, but like in those countries, that's people's hustle. You know what I'm saying? Like they know the tourists are coming, they kind of set up their shop and everything. So we got to go zip lining kind of off the beaten path, and like we got to the top, like the tallest peak, and it was overlooking the island. And I remember looking at it like, this is the view of the world that I want to see. I was like 13, 14. I was like, this is the view of the world I want to see. So I felt like from there, I made sure that at some point I wanted to go somewhere. I wanted to do something. And then when I got to college, I think it was, I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of corny. It was probably like the Lizzie McGuire movie. I remember when she went on her trip and I was I can do that, you know? So when I got to college, I made it my mission to study abroad. And initially it was something I said I wanted to do, but I wasn't moving towards. And then I had a friend who I interned with, and she was like, hey, you know, I'm going to study abroad. Next semester, let's do it together. And so that was when it kind of like snapped me into it. Like, you know, I keep saying I want to do this, but I haven't put in any paperwork, any applications, haven't done the work. And so once you said that, I was like, cool. So like I started doing the research. We did the research together. She ended up not being able to go with me, but you know what I'm saying? I already had my acceptance letter and everything. And I was like, well, guess I'm going somewhere by myself. And so I think that was it was kind of like a double fold catalyst. Like it was something that I knew I wanted to do when I was younger, but it was also something that like I had somebody moving forward with me to do. And although she didn't get to go with me, it still kind of put that, like, you know, that fire under me to say, like, I said I wanted to do this, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I'll follow up after Chandler on that. So, you know, my parents, they travel quite a bit, and they're like the cruise masters.
Wait. What's quite a bit though? Because quite a bit for one family is like, you know, we travel like maybe 6 months, you know.
So my parents have been on over 35 cruises. And they've done like the ones that have gone down the side of South America by Chile. They've gone on Alaskan cruises, Hawaiian cruises, gone up to Canada. Like they've been all over the place. And I saw them doing that while I was growing up. But my thing was, I always told my parents, I want to go further. Like it's nice to be on a ship. It's nice to be, be able to get back on the ship at the end of the day or whatever. But I said I want to go further and actually like go to a place and stay, like see what it's like to be amongst the people. So I never will forget when I was getting ready to make my decision for college. My grandmother went on her very first cruise. She left the country for the first time when she was 85 years old.
Wow.
That was her 85th birthday present.
Wow.
And she went on 4 more cruises after that until she passed. And she said, she told me, she said, if I would have known how fun this was, I would have done this my whole life.
Wow.
And so that, like, me and my grandma was my girl. Those that know me know my grandma was my girl. So I'm like, when she told me that, and I was getting ready to make my college decision, I could have stayed local, or I could have went to South Carolina State. And my grandma said, listen, you go somewhere, meet new people, and have new experiences. She said, you know us.
Right.
She said, go meet somebody else. And so that right there was my biggest push to be like, okay, if my grandma is saying this at almost 90 years old, it's time for me to, I'm about to dip. I'm about to go see the world. Yeah. And so now, like, even when I talk to my parents, like when I send them pictures from places that I've been, they're just like, my mom was like, oh, I would love to go there. And I'm like, you can still go. So it's a beautiful thing when you can motivate people to want to see the world. So that's one of my main, that's actually 2 of my main motivations.
So for me, my sister Jessica, she went to Spelman, and like they had their study abroad programs, and she's been to like every continent except for Australia.
Julie, before you continue, let the people know where your family is from, so they can get a little bit of an understanding of what you're about to say.
Okay, so I'm Nigerian, 100%. My mom and my dad's Nigerian. My mom's Benin, my dad's Urobo. So I never been to Nigeria though, which is kind of sad, y'all. I know, but I'll go eventually. But so my sister, she's literally been everywhere, and I was like, that's cool. But I never took the chance to go to the international department and say, hey, I want to do study abroad until my freshman year. My Spanish teacher, and that's how I went to Costa Rica, he was like, you're doing so well in Spanish, you should do the study abroad. I'll pay for half of it. And I was like, oh, okay. So I told my dad, and he was like, I think it'll be a really good experience for you. And that was just how I went. And after that, I just kept applying to go. So
wow.
I was talking with, not talking personally, but I was in Atlanta, and I went to Clark Atlanta, and Dr. Ronald Johnson, who was the president there at that time, said there are 5 things a Black man should be, and one of them was well-traveled. And that was it for me. I was like, I know I have to, and because he kind of went into why he thought Black men specifically should be well traveled, and that was it for me. I was like, the first opportunity I get, I'll get to, I'll go. And I was supposed to go to Liberia prior to when I went. Liberia was my first time abroad, and when first time I was supposed to go, some things happened, so I was glad I was able to go, and I felt like I was finally like stepping into my Blackness, because he told me, Dr. Ronald Johnson, you told me that every Black man should be well traveled, and that just sparked fire. And now that I've actually done it, I mean, like, what's next is my whole mentality.
Yeah, big facts.
I think to kind of, not to steal, the light from Demetrius as the mediator, but to kind of piggyback off of that, I've heard from different people that, like, I guess especially being Black, their fear is like going to a place and like, oh, I've heard this place is racist or this place don't like Black people. My thing about
that's
that,
everywhere.
My thing about that is like, I've been Black for 24 years, 365 days out of that year. You know what I'm saying? Like, my neighbor doesn't smile at me, and neither will the people in Florence or Paris or Amsterdam. You know what I'm saying? Or wherever you go. Like, you're going to be Black on any continent that you step foot on.
Not my neighbor. Don't smile at me.
I mean,
Right.
it's so little. Oh,
No.
you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, you are going to be Black wherever you are, and just be Black
Yeah.
in that room. Like, I think
Exactly.
my
Black
favorite
in
part
that
of being
room.
in Amsterdam,
That's
like,
beautiful.
That's good.
yeah, I think my favorite part of being over there was like walking into certain rooms and realizing that people around me probably weren't used to seeing Black people. That made my day. That's the funnest thing to me is
Right.
seeing a Black spectacle in a room. You know what I'm saying? Like, people always get, especially abroad, they always have this perception of what Americans are, or, you know, like the depiction of what they see in different cultures on TV, and to kind of negate that, I think is kind of interesting. Like, of course, like, nobody's walking up like, oh, can I touch your hair? Like, we're not playing that, but just
Right.
kind of be that person in the room that, like, they're not used to
Right.
seeing, and maybe feeling like they could ask you a couple questions, or just kind of being that person in the room that they're not used to seeing. I don't know. I think that's kind of fun.
I
think that's
agree
fun.
with that.
I think it's great.
I agree with that. That, like, when I was in Thailand, I promise you, those people treated me like I was a celebrity. Like, literally, and it was right after they came. Black Panther came out too. I promise you, I had to laugh it off, because literally walking down the streets of Bangkok, people walking up to me like, and I'm just like, okay. Like, I still
That's
have a
funny.
picture
I am screaming.
on a boat with like this group of like 20 people who wanted to take pictures with me and my friends, and we all was just like, okay, we'll just go with it. Like, and so, you know, it's like sometimes we have to put our own what else? I'll say it differently. A lot of things we like to let make us mad. Sometimes we just have to embrace those things and just be like, we count it as ignorance, and we'll move forward.
Right. Yeah.
You being Black is not going to change. It's not.
Yeah,
So
we never will.
No. And Chandler, I think you hit a switch just a minute ago, and you kind of felt something rising up, and you just kind of took it on, and that was great. So I want to ask this question, because Greg was talking about being well traveled, and then Chandler piggyback off of him. And so from articles, as we all know, the percentage of African Americans that study abroad is like tremendously low. You know, it's some say like 2 point whatever percent, some say 5. What are ways that you all think that we can increase that number? And I know definitely from this conversation, but what are ways, like, even after this conversation, we can give people practical information, you know, about fears, about, you know, just like Chandler said, you're not going to change your skin tone, or you're not going to change, you know, from being Black when you travel. But what are some ways that we can increase that number, at least get it to 15, 20 by the end of the year or so?
I think going off of like the SGA president standpoint, and being able to do the different study abroad, having an event at school, something that, you know, I could bring up to the next people that's coming, but an event where, you know, you have different vendors. In the past, we tried to do it. You have different food vendors and different acts that come, and just, you know, have different tables set up to where they can, like Ms. Rowe can talk about, you know, study abroad, and then have another table where people that have studied abroad can talk about how important it is as us as African Americans to branch out and get out of our comfort zone, and just have, like, you know, them be able to see the different cultures, people dancing, have the different food trucks, people tasting foods and saying, okay, well, this is something that I want to get into. And I don't know, like, I think a little event like that would be cute, and, you know, just bring more awareness.
Correct.
So let me add something else. So even before college, how can we increase that number? I know my first time traveling, as far as riding a plane, was when I was like 20, 21. You know what I'm saying? And so us as like African Americans, some of us, we're like behind the 8 ball, you know, really bad. I remember when we were coming from Liberia, we were traveling back to the United States. We were on a plane in Morocco, and there was a little guy sitting to my left, and the young lady that was sitting beside me, she was kind of helping him, you know, because he was nervous or whatever. This guy was 13 years old, flying by himself.
Wow.
Oof.
Yeah,
I can't say I flew by myself at that young, but
13 years old. So how can we even like gauge the African American community to, you know, be a little bit more, I guess, informed and, you know, just aware about it at an earlier age, so that then this is what it does, right? So that then we become more competitive in the job
Right,
job
right.
force, right? Because
So I'll say from my experience, I was a Girl Scout, currently an adult leader, and they have around the world. Don't laugh at my awards and my accomplishments.
no,
But they
I
have
love it.
like an around the world day kind of thing. So like and I was a Girl Scout from kindergarten until I graduated high school. So there's an event that we held every year. It's called Thinking Day. And basically each troop in a given service unit is responsible for picking a country and doing research on that country. And on the day of that event, all the troops come together and your troop is responsible for having a little information, having, a simple food from that country, maybe wearing something from that country and being able to say at least 2 or 3 phrases in whatever given language. So I think that was really my first introduction. And when I was younger, we did Paris. I think we did Cairo, and we did something else. I can't remember all the places that we did, but that was just kind of my introduction. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew that Georgia wasn't the only state and America wasn't the only country, but I didn't know really anything else about anywhere else until Girl Scouts introduced me to like thinking about it. So on Thinking Day, like, let me say, in any given service unit, there's like 20 some odd troops. That's 20 something countries, 19 different countries, besides the one that I had to research that I now know about, that I'm now aware of, that I can now point out on the map. So that I think it could be something as early as that. Like that was elementary, middle school.
That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thing as Chandler in 7th grade. What was it called? Social studies, history. I think it was still called social studies.
There you go.
I think it's still called social studies at that point.
You're getting old, James.
I am. But no. So one thing, my teacher throughout the year, one part of our final exam, each quarter we learned all the countries and capitals of a different continent. So at the end of the year, when we took our final exam, we had to know all 100. I think it was 187 countries and capitals of the world. So all of them in Africa, Asia, Europe, South America, North America, even like the islands, all that type of stuff. And when I tell you, I rattled those things off all year. My mom had my flashcard. She kept my flashcards in her purse, and she would just come out of nowhere in the middle of the house and be like, "What's the capital of Austria? What's the capital of Jordan? What's the capital of Malaysia? All right, go eat your dinner." Like, so she would she would drill me all year. And so then we like halfway through the year, right after Christmas, we picked a country that we wanted to do like a little project on, and my country was Austria. And so that's why I said Austria first. But that kind of made me interested in, because we had to delve into the food, we had to talk about the architecture that comes from there, we had to talk about the language they speak, and if it was an English speaking language, then we had to tell like if they had like a certain dialect or a certain accent or whatever. Like we had to go in depth, and this was only in 7th grade, so that made me interested in like the full scope of the culture, of the different cultures. There's a place called Djibouti. That's a country.
Wow. And
the capital of Djibouti is Djibouti.
Wow.
The more you know.
The more you know.
All right, quick note, y'all. Dr. Hopkins, he just commented, and he gave us the percentage. He said, according to a 2011 survey by the Association of Public and Land Grant Universities, fewer than 1% of students at their historically Black member institutions have studied abroad, and just 2% of their students were from another country.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
To answer the question, if I could, very briefly, funding. We have to make funding more accessible. I think more students would travel if
parents
someone could fit the bill. Essentially,
I agree.
There were several travel abroad opportunities at my high school growing up. I just couldn't afford it. I come from a low income, low socioeconomic kind of background, and so I couldn't afford to travel abroad. I could afford those $4,000 trips. And so we, as a collective, came together and tried to somehow get funding for students to not only study but study abroad. Then I think more students. I think that percentage would increase dramatically.
I think also, even to pair with funding, I think it has to do with like a fear of the unknown. Like I said, like I've talked to my friends about studying abroad. Like I didn't necessarily tell the whole world that I was going somewhere. So, they found it on Snapchat. But like to kind of figure out how I got there and to see somebody else that go somewhere and to know that they came back. Like my aunt, when I was over there, she texted me every day and she was asking for pictures of the people I was hanging out with. Like she was legitimately scared for me. Like I was gonna get kidnapped or something, So I think it's a fear to get over as well. Like yes, funding is absolutely important because studying abroad was not cheap, but I think it's also a fear, a fear like, your mom's fear is her baby's not coming back, or your fear is that like I'm gonna get on this plane and I'm not gonna land, or it's gonna be like taken. That's
exactly what I used to think.
That's the extreme. Like that is the. I had to explain that movie. I had to explain that to my mother. Like I'm like 2 months ago, I went to Italy for work, and I still had to convince my mom. She was like, "Send me your plane information and send me the name of the hotel you staying at." And I'm like, "Mom, I'm grown. Like, I'm not gonna like calm down." But I don't think, honestly, I feel like more education on, because my mom was saying, is it safe where you're going? Da 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 da. But then when I started telling her, I was like, honestly, a lot of the places that I've traveled are ranked safer than America. So
correct. That's what a lot of people
that's a very
That's a lot of people do not know in regards to even far as like us going to Amsterdam, like even their gun laws, like certain places like in Senegal, the police don't carry guns. The only person that carry guns are the military. So it's safer than being in America with certain gun laws. And even back to the question, I feel that as far as like us as a Black community, we need to take initiative as far as like people that have studied abroad to go back to your old high school and talk to kids, or maybe
set up. Yep.
Because you know what I'm saying, you're an alumni of that school. Just that's your way of giving back through your experience of studying abroad and making somebody else more aware of that situation.
Right.
Like for my high school, we didn't have nothing like that. Like I just say, like went to some high school. People barely made it out of 285 in Atlanta. So
stop it.
Right.
Studying abroad was not an option. But I feel just going back to the schools as Black leaders that actually studied abroad and going back and giving kids the knowledge, and as far as funding, maybe us coming together and putting up raising money so that we can give out grants or things of that nature for those kids to have the opportunity that are less fortunate. So
my face is getting blacked out.
Because at State, it used to be free at State.
It did
to study abroad.
Really?
But yeah, because Davion used to do it. He said it was completely free, but some people just didn't take the opportunity. So
I also think, as far as State, like nobody knows where that office is. So I kind of feel like
I showed it.
I think Dominique's office needs to be in a different location. Yeah, I feel like that office
in the student center or something central because having to go find it in it's in Belcher,
and then you got to go in the cut.
Yeah, you gotta go way around the corner. If you don't know to look for them flags, you ain't gonna find it.
Right. And we're talking about the International Coordinator's Office, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Because that's the name, we're gonna go with it.
Y'all got to remember that. You have to remember that we are from State. There's a lot of people up here that are from State, so we have to make sure that.
Sorry.
How do you think study abroad would impact your? Okay,
I was right.
Dr. Hawkins, we actually have that question on the list too, as well. So here's another question. With all of what we just said, James, you even said your family, your mom, she was asking you all these questions. Chandler, you said one of your family members was like texting you every day, about who you were talking to, where you were going, et cetera, et cetera. How do we prepare, for traveling abroad so that then we have, everything in place and kind of like a pretty good understanding? I'm sure you all can talk about some of the pre-departure sessions that you guys had, but how do we prepare even outside of that to become familiar with where we're going?
Do your
research.
I would say, yeah, do your research. So, that's a very vague statement. Do your research can entail a lot of things, but me, I kind of go in depth. So not only like even just regular traveling, I make sure I have nailed down where I want to stay in my travel accommodations. That is always the first, point right there. And when I'm finding my, where I'm staying or whatever, I always make sure I look up any travel advisories. So that means like when I was going to Italy a few months ago, they were saying Italy is a level 2. Be careful. Use normal precaution for in case you get sick. Da 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 da. I also like to look up some of the ingredients in the food. If you have allergies, that's important. If they have a main ingredient that they like to focus on, then be careful because that's one thing. And then I always make sure I have all my paperwork gathered together in one safe place, and it's accounted for. And I check it over and over again. I make sure I have my passport, make sure I have my ID. I make sure I have I have screenshots and even printed out paperwork of directions and the hotel and airline ticket. I make sure I have everything I need to travel. So all I got to do is just kind of pull it out of a sleeve of a folder and be like, boom, here you go. Boom, here you go. Like it should be no fumbling in my backpack or any of that. And I also make sure that I have general medication. So being that means so I have allergy medicine. I have usually a pain reliever, something like ibuprofen or Tylenol. And I usually bring along some Tums just in case, you get a little acid reflux. And I take Alka-Seltzer because Alka-Seltzer cures everything. So those are some of the things that I make sure I run through before I go out of the city, I go out of the state, go out of the country, just to make sure that my finances are straight, and that my peace of mind is there for my health. Yeah. Peace of mind is everything.
I'll say my sister, she currently lives abroad, but she put me onto this YouTube page. And I mean, it's kind of, I'll say he's a little cheesy, but it's basically you can look up all of these things on YouTube. There are people who travel and make blogs about everything. And if you can find the video boring or however it is, but that's a form of research. There's somebody else already in that place, looking into doing what you're looking to do. And you could spend hours on YouTube just looking up different people's perspective of one city, or one entire country. So I thought it was cheesy at the time, I'm not gonna lie, but some of the things that when I studied abroad, that places that I went or things that I experienced either in the city I was in or places that I went to, I found a travel guide, or I looked it up on YouTube and I was able to watch a video, or it's just kind of little things like that. And then for my actual study abroad program, the program itself had a pre-departure thing. So me and my parents sat down and actually listened to the program coordinators tell us your kids will be fine. They can reach us at this, email address or this number. Here's where you're staying. Here's what this is all from a presentation on my laptop or whatever 2 weeks before I leave. And they would just kind of ram through here's what you should expect when you get here. They didn't necessarily give us a budget, but they were here's, what you should expect to spend every week on necessities like food and, general medication, of course, stuff like that. And they just kind of gave us a very well-rounded picture of, from a financial standpoint, from a safety standpoint, from a living perspective, what we should expect. And you could just hear, you could just feel the sigh of relief in the room of okay, we're not just going in based off of what we read on Google yesterday. So I think a combination of all of those things really helped.
Gotcha. And just because of time, let me ask this question. Just because of time, and we want to make sure that we get all of these in. So, a lot of people think that when they see pictures of people like ourselves and maybe some of our colleagues traveling abroad, they're like, "Oh man, that's dope! You're in Paris. It must be fun." And so they think that you are there. A lot of us are there, for leisure, but really it's attached to some of our curriculums and some of our, classes. And so from that foundational question, what how do you think that your study abroad trips or fellowships or programs that you went on, how do you think that, or how do you feel that it impacted your career and aspirations to develop even more and to be a better candidate for wherever you're going?
Can I start?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So having been like I spent 5 months over there basically. So having gotten to interact with people from different cultures and countries, and like the way that the Dutch education system is set up, like I was in like it was a lecture and then it was a separate project group class. So I always was in a group of students. I was never doing work individually. So I had to learn how to work around people's like normal schedules and how they perform and just kind of how they thought about certain things. So like me, when it comes to group work and student work, like we're going to divvy this up. We need to figure out who's going to take what, Okay, if we have a meeting on Tuesday, everybody needs to bring their piece or at least a plan for their piece on Tuesday. And I realized that like not everybody operates like that. And I know that's like an American thing, but like the way that they were kind of operating was like, oh, I can do this on XYZ time. So like they were, it was almost frustrating to have to watch them kind of do their work kind of like last minute, or how I felt it was last minute. And then me being the one that was like a native English speaker and the class had to be in English, I had to take everybody's work and like translate it. So I feel like that was kind of like one of my challenges. But I think that aspect made me, especially given like where I work and what I do, I think the other aspect that it gives me is being able to understand different people's accents and kind of getting an understanding from interacting with those people personally and having those conversations just outside of our homework of like what their culture is. So listening to like the different people walk around with who aren't native English speakers, it made me a lot more patient to listen to people and be like, okay, of course sometimes you'll think like, oh, I can't understand him, like I'm over this conversation. But like it gave me the patience to realize that as a non-native English speaker, like you need a little patience, So I think that was a number one thing. And then realizing that like not everybody is, especially from a classroom perspective, not all cultures are focused on getting A's or being excellent and stuff like that. Just because they don't work the same as you doesn't mean they're not as bright or as motivated or anything like that. So having to kind of work around people's cultures and things to still reach a common goal. And I think that was one of like the biggest lessons ever. It was once you kind of like take all those things in and just kind of like breathe through it, it was, I still use some of that stuff today. Like I work around people who I can't sometimes understand. And then somebody on my team would be like, what'd she say? X, Y, and Z. Oh, okay. Like I feel like that was a pretty valuable tool.
Chandler, did you learn any Dutch while you were there?
Hallo, dankjewel. De bon. That's all I got. I know how to say. Thank you. No. So that's another thing. You learn that a lot of countries have an official language and speak English. Like a Dutch girl told me straight up, it was useless to learn Dutch because all of them speak English. And I was teaching third graders how to speak English. Like they learn how to speak English from a very early age. So I knew how to say, I would go to the grocery store and like I could work a little conversation about where the apples or, can I have my receipt? And I get to the counter and she's asking me, do I want the rewards card? And I don't know what she's saying. And I say, what? Oh, and then they just switch to English.
Like they switch like that. They switch like it's nothing. But I agree with Chandler. I would say like one of her points where she said she learned how to work with people of other cultures, and like just because we have a certain educational standard or a way we like to do things, that's not how everybody does it. And that made me really understand and be better prepared for where I am in my career right now. So I work for a global company, and like my company is in I think 46 different countries. And wait.
Let's just kind of reverse back to what you just said. So let's talk about cultural competency for a minute, because you just said you're in a global company. So really break that down for people as you're talking about being in a global company, because I know that you have to be, like Dr. Hopkins is saying in the comments, you really have to be culturally competent. Like you have to be aware of what this economy is like here, what business looks like that. Like really break that down for people that's on Facebook right now. Like just don't speed through that, James. Just kind of
okay.
that really quick.
So when I say I work for a global company, it basically means that all daily business involves different countries. So it's not like we're just selling in different countries, or we have products in different countries. This means that multiple players at the table making decisions, having conversations, the day-to-day business operations are, from all across the world. Like literally on my team, there are people from America, there's somebody from Puerto Rico. My manager, and this is so crazy because I applied for this position for the ability to travel because my manager lives in Florence, Italy. And there's people on my team in Paris, France, in Madrid, Spain, and in Suzhou, China, and in Calcutta, India, and I think somewhere in India. And I have to interact with these people on a daily basis. And so it's become easy now to juggle talking to people, because like I'll be on conversation with somebody from China and I'll have to tune my ear to that accent or that understanding, because I've come to realize that English is a hard language.
Yes, sir.
English is a very hard language. So having to hear these people who grew up speaking one language, they're really doing their best to accommodate me. So what I try to do is, like when I went to Italy for a few months ago, is I told my teammates, I said, every day teach me a new Italian word. Mm-hmm. Because I said, I want to show that y'all are sitting here doing my training, trying to help me get better at my position. And you're doing this in English, which is a struggle for you. And I want to show you that I'm matching your energy and trying to learn, just as much as you're trying to help me my way, I'm trying to learn your way.
Yeah,
I got you. So I know Spanish and I took Mandarin in college. So like when I went to Spain last year, I was
Shout out to Mandarin.
But when and then Mandarin, I haven't had the chance to use it like I want to. I'm waiting on the opportunity, but it's just some places that I've been, like I don't know how to speak Thai. I've been to Thailand. I was sitting there like, I was using Google Translate as much as I could, and I was really struggling. But it's doing the abroad immersion experiences that I did. It was like these people everywhere we go, they're putting such great effort into accommodating me.
Yeah,
I want to be accommodating to somebody else,
right?
And so it made me kind of have this pay it forward mentality, that if somebody can be accommodating to me and be patient with me, and that's outside of their comfort zone, that means I can accommodate somebody else and try to do my best to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
And
hey, Greg, can you answer that for me? Julie, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Greg looked like he was itching for a moment. I wanted to see if he wanted
to answer the what question? The
initial one, when we were talking about how does it impact your career and your just development to be a better candidate for wherever you're going?
So I'm a political science major, but my political science, I guess, or love for politics kind of stems for this love of policy. And I had a very centralized idea of policy, right? My idea of policy was very specific to people I see, people I know. I had no global understanding of policy and how even local policy can change and develop international policy. When I was in Liberia, I made it a point to always ask when we would meet with those government officials, what has America done within our United States that has affected you all? And they always had something to say. And so really getting this understanding that the policy that we affect, that we kind of enact or initiate has an effect globally. And so making sure that we take into consideration not only our people, which is important, because I remember Dr. Hopkins, who I'm so glad is on the call, was saying and we were in Liberia, that a lot of stuff that Liberians are dealing with is also happening again in the United States. So definitely keeping our people in mind, but thinking globally, how does this affect the global economy? How does this affect the global infrastructure? And so that's definitely been the biggest takeaway for me. And I think it has definitely heightened my career aspirations.
Okay. Julie Sanyo.
Well, it's kind of, a mixture of what everyone said, like what James said. Like, I want to go into the medical field, so I'm going to see different people every day. And I feel like we as Americans, like, we can speak English, but like when you go to other countries, like I went to Costa Rica and I went to Greece, they can speak English, but like we can't speak their language. And I feel like it's important for us to, stop being so complacent in like one, language and like branch out, especially like jobs like you want to do poli-sci, James, your job that you have to do. I feel like a lot of people don't feel as it important to actually learn outside of English. And like for my parents, like the language in Nigeria is English, but I can barely speak it, and I feel like it's just the issue with that.
To kind of piggyback off the language thing,
yeah, that's
like the official language, right?
Nigeria. That's the official language. Yeah.
So to kind of piggyback off that, America is the only country that doesn't necessarily require you to learn a second language. Like English is a business language, so people always feel like, so it's kind of like an American mentality for like the world revolves around us if everybody is required to speak English. So, every other country besides America requires students to learn another language. You can take Spanish as an elective and BS through it and come out with a C or a B and be glad with it and not know a single...
And not know anything.
Not know anything, you know what I'm saying? And Americans are okay with that. But to function in other countries, like I'm saying, like in Amsterdam, there was an English section and there was a Dutch section. So like you could go to either one. One class was specifically taught in English, and not even the teacher was a native English speaker. So it's and like I said, like I was volunteering teaching kids how to speak English at an early age. Like that is built into their curriculum from elementary school to teach those kids English, and it's not built into any real public American education to actively teach and instruct kids in a second language so that they are fluent in another language.
And I feel like with that, if we like teach them more different languages and like actually be serious about it, like you said, we go to Spanish and we just want to be or see the past, then maybe it'll like broaden their horizons to say, hey, okay, maybe I do want to study abroad. For like the younger ones, okay, I want to study abroad because now I'm able to learn these languages in my classroom, and I'm an American. But hey, let me actually go to this country and see and speak and see what they, how they
apply
live.
what you learn. Apply what you learn.
Right.
And it's interesting that you said it. Well, Caleb, you can go ahead.
I'll
let you go and then I'll go after that.
In regards to, I guess, studying abroad in the job force, as of right now, I do work for Hyundai, and it is primarily North Korean. It was based out of North Korea, so it's kind of structured that way. And just me studying abroad, and my sister actually used to teach in Korea. So, and me even just interacting with some of my coworkers that's from Korea, like just understanding their cultures and their values and their country will kind of help you even maneuver in a job place, in the environment of the job place. Because certain things that we value or we may seem lightly, they value more.
Yeah.
It can irritate them or, things of that nature. So just understanding, the value of other people values. So that's all I got to say in regards to it.
I think that's a great point, man. With you talking about how your sister was working in Korea, and then even Julie, you said something that really struck my mind about how we can gauge them a little bit earlier. And so as I'm thinking about it, a lot of times, especially as we compete, to have great GPAs, and no knock to anybody that has the great GPA, right? But people need to realize that companies are not just looking for students now that have the great GPAs. They're now looking for the well-rounded, student that has the global perspective, right?
That's important.
That can not just come into the room and give the best presentation, but he or she also can come into the room and now create a great team of people that's from all different parts of the world. And so I think that's a great point as relate with all people. So I think that's a great point that we all have taken away from study abroad. It's like we became better people, you know.
Yeah.
And this ultimately allows us to be competent to be in our different areas. And so here's my next question. And James, you kind of touched on this earlier, but what were some things that you learned about yourself when you studied abroad or traveled abroad?
I would,
and really think about it in the sense of like whether like you confronted a fear that you had that you didn't know you had, you know, whether it was like this stereotype about food, or you know, just anything, because people really deal with these fears before they travel, and they're like, oh, I didn't know I was that, you know, impatient when it comes to trying to understand a person's accent.
Right.
that was one of them. I would say patience. Me, like, and I never thought I was that impatient, because growing up in Florida is like the melting pot of America. And it's like, you know, I grew up hearing people whose primary language was either Creole or Spanish. And I was like, okay, I feel like I should be able to give them some grace. But then, like, when I went to Thailand, it was a little bit more like, I don't know what you're saying, and I can't, like, stop. Like, what's going on?
You had the patience
like,
for
just,
it.
like, stop. Like, they be sitting there like they just like making hand gestures, and it just made it seem like overwhelming. And so I'm just like, no, like, chill out, bro. Like, and so
then they get tired of you because you can't understand them. They like,
Right.
So I had to
that's
really
real.
get my patience. Like, it tested my patience, but you know, they always say when you ask God for patience, he'll test it first to really show you where you are. So that really helped me get my patience together. And also, and this is just, this was sort of, the American media paints so many countries as less than.
Yes.
It's true.
And
Talk about
they
everybody
make
in
you,
Africa ain't starving.
exactly, like, they make it seem like
eating good.
like as soon as you step outside of America, the world just plummets into darkness.
Right.
And I
true.
have been to many different continents.
That's good.
And one thing I can say is that the standard of beauty that we think we have for the rest of the world in America is oh my goodness. I have been to some of the most beautiful places that I've been have not been on American soil.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Hey,
the best.
please go
ahead.
after this. No, James, I want you to finish, but Julie, I want you to go next, because I've heard things about Nigeria I just never been before. So James, after you finish, I want Julie to go.
But like we always look at the World Trade Center and all these different, some of the best architecture, some of the best food, some of the nicest people that I have met have been from other countries, especially like I'm sure Julie can attest to this. Some of the people, like Costa Rica, those people were amazing.
Yes, I
like
love that.
they were just such
place.
kind-hearted, sweet-spirited people. And it's just like I had to combat what had been planted in me concerning other countries, because really the way we judge other countries, it's not true. And so I had to fight that within myself, because I said, I came in there like, oh, this country probably gonna be dirty, or they might be poor, da 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 da. But then when you get there, it completely blows your mind, and you're like, whoa, this ain't what I thought at all. So I really had to fight that within myself. So that's one of the major things I learned.
That was good.
And yeah, like, you know, my parents being Nigerian, of course they speak of Nigeria, and you know, we see those commercials like feed the children in there, and there are places, you know, that, you know, are underfunded, of course, but you know, in America, everybody's mind, because you know, growing up, I always heard that, oh, like, you know, it's good that y'all made something of y'all self, you know, like y'all got something good going on, but like everybody in Africa is poor, but that's not the case. You know, my parents like have houses, huge houses, nice pavement, things like that. And people don't understand, like, you know, there's riches and golds, and you don't see, you know, in America, you know, everything, I feel like what James said, everything is a certain way, but it's not, and everybody see, you know, I'll use Africa, of course, because Nigerian, but everybody see that as, you know, not having anything, pretty much in a nutshell. But you know, when my parents speak about Nigeria, it's just like I need to go. Like I want to go. It's so beautiful. The atmosphere is clean. You know, you don't have to worry about all these diseases and things like that we have to worry about here in America. And like James said, in Costa Rica, I didn't want to leave. You know, like, and like we talked about earlier, you know, I felt safer in Costa Rica, you know, coming from Orangeburg and being at State, you know, it was just, I felt safer. I felt like homey. The people were so nice and understanding. It's just a different vibe. And I just hate that we paint this picture in our mind as Americans that everywhere else needs help and we don't, because we need the most help, honestly.
Hello.
Real.
Hello.
And the most beautiful art that I've seen is not been in America. When I went to Greece, like when we went on a cruise, going to the different islands, like it was it was just so white. It just, the water was just clean. It was just beautiful. I didn't see that here.
Wow. You can't see here at all. Because sometimes we be the dirty ones.
Right. Speak on it.
State City.
Right.
I do want to speak on that topic. And as James was saying, basically the picture that the media of America paint. As far as me, as I stated, I've been to Senegal. So like, you know, as a picture that the media paint, as far as Africa being poor or things of that nature, but think about, it's not even the natural resources that are there that makes the country beautiful. It's not even about the money. Like, we materialize certain things that's not important. Would you rather have a diamond chain that you had to get from the soil in Africa?
Exactly.
But it came from that soil in Africa. That same soil where you paint a picture where it's poor, or where it's nothing that I guess the value of that country in America is nothing. But in reality, we're producing the things that you glamour and glitz for. So it's you know, so it's not even about the money to, like, in regards to the countries. It's going to the other countries, seeing natural resources. Like when I was in Africa, I went to Lake Loch Rose, and that's a lake it stands for Pink Lake. The lake is pink during certain seasons because of the concentration of salt in it. I was in a boat in the lake with a hole in it, but I didn't drown because of the concentration of the salt in the lake.
Wow.
So it's like,
I need to give y'all an offering, because
so cool. Right.
Y'all on here speaking, bro.
Nah, but it's the truth, man. But it's just the beauty of going to those different countries and watching people that don't, maybe, you know how we have houses and, you know, maybe some people live in huts, but that they're still happy every day because you can wake up, they got a meal that they can eat. They can go to a tree and pick a mango, or go climb up a tree and grab a date palm from a palm tree or a coconut, and be able to even make money off of just selling natural resources right there in their country.
Ooh, that's good. Let me ask this question, because that comment made me think about something. So a lot of times, I think in America we talk about entrepreneurship a whole lot, and we think like we have like the spirit of entrepreneurship here.
Nah,
so
we don't have.
Not even close.
It's not close.
Not my calling.
Yeah. And so I said that to say, when I went to Ghana and I want to say Liberia was like that somewhat. We went to certain places, but literally every morning you saw, I mean, literally, you know, you saw baskets on top of people's head, you know what I'm saying? They selling stuff. And I'm not talking about, you know, like 3 or 4 people. I'm talking about 50, 60, 70, you know, and they just have this mind to like grind and get it. That's just what they do.
Bro.
Yeah. And so when you said that, Caleb, you just made me think about that. So y'all can continue sharing about what were some things that you learned about yourself. I just want to share that really quick.
I guess I'll go next. I think I'm a very anxious person, and I think it's just how I am. I'm just an anxious person. I'm kind of impatient, and I can just remember being in a city that didn't necessarily value moving fast or getting from point A to Z, you know what I'm saying? Like stopping at point B just because you had the time to and stuff like that. So I think for me, it was
That's a
really
good point.
slowing down and realizing that like I mean, kind of that cliche phrasing of like, it's not the destination, it's the journey. It was kind of stuff like that. Like I remember one day I was trying to get somewhere and the metro wasn't going to get there fast enough. I couldn't bike, it was just a very frustrating day for me to feel like I couldn't get from point A to point Z. Like it was like the worst day of all time because I couldn't get, because I couldn't get somewhere, but I
Yeah.
think, again, I had a class that was basically about cultural communications. And so the teacher was Dutch and she kind of not integrated, but like taught the class on her knowledge, and we kind of fed off of like our surroundings. And it really was a class about being conscious of what's around you, not just being in a city to say that you're there to take cool pictures, but actually interacting with the people that live there.
Right.
And like their experiences. So like I made a friend over there, like I follow her on Instagram still and talk to her, but I made a friend while I was over there, and like she was Dutch. And so once I made her as a friend, she kind of was like, okay, well, I'm going to this event, I'm going to this place. So she took the time to like show me different things and tell me about different things. So after I stopped trying to get from point A to point B or wherever I was going, I really took the time to just enjoy where I was. Like I wasn't being bogged down by anything. Like I couldn't have a job while I was over there. Like I couldn't do certain things that I guess I would normally do or I would feel obligated to be doing. So, on any given day, I only had classes like 3 days out of a week during certain quarters, but I would just wake up, I'd walk outside, I'd figure out from my building, I could see the metro. So I'd walk outside, I'd figure out how much time I got, and I would just get dressed. And I would remember like, okay, I was on the tram yesterday in, I don't know, XYZ Square, and I saw this cool restaurant or this cool store. Like I took the time after I kind of got over the fear or like the anxiety of being somewhere that was unfamiliar. I grasped onto the unfamiliarity and used it as my basis for adventure. You know what I'm saying? Like I was literally like I would be going somewhere thinking I was going to, like I'm on the tram thinking I'm going to my favorite square to get me a croissant. Oh wait, let me stop right here because I see a cool store. I would just get off where I was and explore where I was in that moment. And I think it just really allowed me to slow down. Like I don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. and go for a healthy bike ride. I don't have to, be at this. Sure, unless I'm going to class. I don't have to be somewhere on anybody's time schedule, So I think it really allowed me to, and I mean, I still kind of do this now. Like it really allowed me to kind of slow down and realize that there are people and there are things around me to see and experience and interact with. And it I don't know, just kind of made me realize that I needed to slow down and pay attention to my surroundings.
Live in the moment.
I think that's a great point. Chandler, you said you took the unfamiliar as motivation for you to embrace the adventure of where you were.
It sounds like
that's
good.
I did. Listen, when y'all went to
even
when y'all went to Amsterdam and Paris, like I gave Caleb called me and was like on the phone with me when he was in Paris, like, bro, we couldn't do X, Y, and Z. We couldn't find this and da 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 da. We went to Amsterdam. You know what I'm saying? Like I was giving him suggestions of things to do and places to go, but it was like I found those things and I was able to be a tour guide because I found them. Like I was walking down the street and it was cool.
That's real.
And the crazy
that's such a great point, man. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Caleb. Because Chandler,
me and Jay end up walking the whole Amsterdam in Timberland, like around the whole city part. We walked in Timberland boots, like just walked. We had a map from.
I know your feet hurt.
Right, in Tim's?
It was no stones. I promise you.
I'm about to say those cobblestones are not comfortable.
We wasn't used to being there. We were just exploring, like
kids
from a city that ain't never been nowhere really. And just like exploring it, like let's see what we can get into. Let's meet locals. And doing that, we found so many different places.
Oh, okay. I'll say one more thing though. Even kind of jumping back to the point about being Black wherever you are, there are a lot more Black people in these places than you realize. Like when I was not the only Black person in too many rooms when I was over there, but even when I went back to see my sister at Christmas, like I was on a flight next to these two girls that were from Hampton. And then in any other situation where we weren't the only Black people, it wasn't that they were American. That's what I'm saying. There were other Black people from other places. Like we're not the only Black people in the world. African Americans are not the ruling Black body. So when and just kind of going to those places, it was cool to realize like how uninformed I was about where Black people are in the world.
Exactly.
Like I'm sitting in a cafe and that there are like Black British people and then other places and everything, but I'm sitting over here thinking like, oh, I'm gonna compliment this girl's shoes, and she starts speaking French. Compliments gone because I can't. You don't know what I'm saying, but you know what I'm saying. But it's stuff like that to realize that like we're not the only Black people in the world, kind of thing. So it was just kind of cool to look up. And then even like the Dutch they still have island colonies in the Caribbean. So like I would walk into places and they would speak to me in Dutch, thinking that I was Dutch. So like I wasn't the norm, but I wasn't necessarily like some kind of exception either. So I thought that was also very cool.
I like that point that you made about we don't really realize how big the African diaspora is. Like,
correct.
Like we was taken everywhere. We was thrown all over.
We was taken.
You had to say it improper. We was taken everywhere. And like even going I love being able to find the similarities because like when I was in Costa Rica, they may have spoken Spanish, but their skin was dark and rich just like mine.
Yes.
And so I love seeing that because even in Thailand, there were some people who were darker than me. And I'm just like, I love it. That means like we are all over the place, and the diversity that you see with Black skin, because you can see somebody with Black skin, but they have blonde hair and they speak Chinese, or you can see somebody with Black skin, they have hair like me, and they're they're full-blooded Costa Rican.
Right.
And it's so beautiful traveling all these places and seeing the diversity of what people try to make so singular.
Yes.
Yes.
Lord,
Greg,
I need to find my charger.
How has my experience?
Yeah, some things you learned about yourself. Because
myself.
You taught a class as well over there, so I'm sure that you can talk about the experience from even teaching a class. So, what were some things that you learned about yourself traveling abroad?
I think one, and this is coming from what they did. So music and dancing was a huge part of the experience. And Dude said, "Come on, man," because at the time I probably said something all deep philosophical. I don't, I was awakened in Africa. No, but dancing is really a form of liberation, right? In that I was just don't have to be so. The point I'm trying to make, they don't have to be so. Hi, I'm Greg Norwood, and it's like there is liberation in being yourself and letting yourself free, and you see that in dancing, where no matter who you are. I mean, Dr. Hopkins, my guy's a whole academician. I mean,
yeah. Shout out to Dr. Hopkins again.
Yeah. He's major in the world of higher education, in the realm of just thinking in general. And my guy got on that dance floor, hi, I'm Dr. Hopkins. But when he got on that dance floor, he was a different person, right? And so that's what I learned, that you can be that, both free and, of course, kind of quote unquote reserved.
Yeah.
But as far as teaching, man, it really pushed my desire to learn. Those students were sitting on broken desks on dirt. Like we have all the luxuries and technology and all that stuff that make learning so easy. But they have to try to learn, if that makes sense. And their desire to know.
Yeah.
I'd never seen it. I think, but prior I studied for tests. That was it. Like I don't care. I don't need this. I don't need to know about biology. Just let me pass the test. And I've done well in that. But I never knew anything. And so really understanding, trying to get this idea that learning is such a tool. and that it comes at a cost. It's taxing for some people, and I have it so easy. So really taking advantage of the learning opportunities. So I think that's the biggest one. Really trying to learn and grasp. Use that word.
Yeah.
Grasp.
Yeah, Chandler.
That learning,
Grasp.
experiences.
Yeah. So I think your comment really goes back to Dr. Hopkins' initial, comment about the classroom is the world and the world is the classroom.
Yeah.
I really think it really goes back to that. And then even something else that you said, because you were talking, and I wanted to say something about Ghana. It just came back to, okay. So you're talking about dancing, and so when we were in Ghana, man, we had a session with this teacher. Her name is Dr. Mjiba, and she went to Howard, graduated from Howard, and went straight over to I'm not sure if she went straight over to Ghana, but she went and she teaches over there now. But she had a session, man, and she was just crushing the students. Dr. Hopkins and I were a little bit late because we had a meeting to attend, but man, she was crushing the students. She was telling us, man, this is why you came back, to see your brothers and your sister dancing. The stuff that you guys are, ashamed of is the same stuff that you need to embrace. The dance and the singing, the ability to be creative, a lot of those things. She just really, made us more aware, because a lot of times because of people being able to manipulate what we have been given to do, God given to do. Sometimes we can grow weary in what we've been created to do because we see people trying to take it and manipulate it for their own use, and then now we see another culture doing it. It's like, you're not even doing it right to begin with, and so I just wanted to say that, Greg, because you made me think about that when you said something about dancing. And Dr. Hopkins just put up a quote. He said, to understand the dance, understand the drum. To understand the drum is to understand the dance. And that's from the late Chuck Davis, master African dance. Yeah. Julie, you want to give something about things that you learned about yourself, or did you already go?
Let me think. I mean, I learned that going with a group of students, especially like with study abroad, you may not know some people, and you may run into certain things, especially when it comes to like getting out of your comfort zone. And I know for a specific group that I went with, Costa Rica, we were more open to doing a lot of things. And I know, like, being here in America, I just kind of like, I go with the flow of everything. I know what I got to do. And I, like Chandler said, like, I never like go out of, my way to like do extra things. But like when we went to Greece, a lot of people, they didn't want to do a lot of things because of the looks and the stares that we were getting, because we were African American, and like they were looking at us like, oh, what they coming here to do? Are they, but like I feel like I just kind of had to learn, like, I mean, that stuff doesn't really matter. I done paid this money to come on this trip, and I need to have fun, and I need to get out of my comfort zone and stop being so, like, this is what you got to do at 9, this is what you got to do at 10, this is what you got to do. Like we got lost. We took the wrong train trying to go back to the hotel in Greece, and like we were out for like 3 hours, and me and another student, we just kind of like, we was like, okay, you know what, we hungry, we ain't eat, we just kind of we're gonna explore. And that's what we did. And usually, I wouldn't really do that, I stick to what we got on the schedule and things like that. But we were in this predicament where we were lost, we didn't know what to do, we had to wait for the next train. But I'm not about to sit here and just wait, let's go out and do something else. So I kind of had to like get away from the schedule and the setup of how different things are. But I also did want to say something about like the dance and things that y'all stated. My mom, she went to Nigeria in February for about like 3 weeks because her granddad died. And I know, like, in American culture with funerals, you got this one day you go to the grave site, you bury your loved one, and then you go to the house, and you talk, everyone's sad, and, but with our culture, having a funeral, you bury them, and then like you have this week long of events. I called my mom and she was like, we're about to go to the party. You know, like they have different things and they dance down the street, you know, to like honor the life, because they look at it as, you know, not like a death, but like a new beginning for them, you know, after life and things like that. So dancing is very, very important in our culture. And yeah, I feel like more people should know more about that and not be ignorant to the things.
For sure.
Okay, one last point considering what Julie just said.
Go
Like
ahead.
when you get lost, for those 3 hours, like
Those are the best times.
yeah, like my motto
We
was
got
No,
into
no,
some
I
confidently
agree.
lost.
I agree.
Got into
Yeah,
some things.
my motto was confidently lost. Like you're never really, especially kind of in a foreign
Confidently
country, as long as you feel as if you're safe, you can
Yeah.
always find your way back to where you're supposed to be when you need to get there. You know, like you got to kind of be able to take things in stride, and to like I feel like that was also an important lesson I learned. Like just be able to kind of take things as they come and not really panic about. You don't need to panic about everything. Like
Right,
Yeah.
right. I would say like going with the flow is so important for real. Like
Exactly.
when I was in
Especially traveling abroad.
yes,
Yes.
traveling abroad, because
Period.
so
You better
many-
learn how to go with the flow.
there are so many things like traveling abroad, so many things can change in the drop of a dime. That
Exactly.
you have to know how to be able to adapt to the
You gotta
situation,
think.
and you have to what they say, think on your toes, think on your feet.
Yeah.
Because like I was in Naples, Italy, and I was like, okay, I need to go back to the hotel, but the taxi was too expensive. They was talking about $80 to take me back to my hotel, and I was like, So I said, well, this train right here is $3, so I'm gonna get on this train and see where we go.
Exactly.
And so I was on that train, and I ended up going the different direction from my hotel. But I ended up in Sorrento, Italy, and it was beautiful. And then, I was able to like find my way and get back. But it was just like, it was just the spur of the moment, just get on the train and just, see where it goes. That made for a great day. So you learn to adapt, be flexible. Don't put yourself in danger, but know that everything is not gonna go as planned, and everything should not be planned.
Exactly.
Ooh, that's a good point. So I want to share this story really quick, because when I went to Amsterdam and when I went to Africa, or Europe, Africa, when I went to those two different places, the experience was totally different. I feel like when we went to Paris and Amsterdam, it was more so like educational, to the sense of like being very professional. How are you? Good morning. Networking, trying to make sure that we are here. And I was a student then. On the other hand, I felt like when I went to Africa, it was more so me being strengthened as far as who I am, as a person, who I am, who I am, as far as culturally, my ancestors, what we believe, the passion that we have. I met a little girl by the name of Favor. I'm not sure if y'all saw the video on my Instagram, but this little girl, I promise you, she had the most confidence that I've ever seen in my life. Seriously, I'm talking about even from like older people that dance and sing or whatever. She had so much confidence, and it's like she was dancing like, I don't care who sees me, because this is not just what I'm doing, but this is who I am.
Yeah, wow.
You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like Africa was that place that it is that place that helps me to identify, to not just say this is what I do or this is what we do, but this is who I am. And so I think we're going to ask about one or two more questions, then we're going to see if anybody has any questions on the live. So Chandler, you said something earlier that I think is a great point. A lot of people sometimes don't realize, or they aren't aware, that this is considered experiential learning, studying abroad, and so experiential learning is defined as, the ability to learn through doing. And so my question is, how can we encourage professors or encourage teachers, whoever that's in the academic arena, to say, hey, you can now implement the ability to have experiential learning in the sense of study abroad into your syllabus or into your curriculum as something that will prepare them to be more competitive. How do we now articulate that to people that are in higher ed?
I kind of think that also has to do with funding, because like some of the people I was studying abroad with, it was already built into their curriculum that they had to spend a semester somewhere. And another thing that I learned, like some of the friends that I still have that I made over there, they went to colleges that had satellite campuses in different countries. Like when I went to Amsterdam, I was a student of the University of Amsterdam. I still got the ID for it, but I made a friend who was fluent in like 3 different languages because his school had, he went to like University of California something, but his school had a satellite campus in Florence. It had a satellite campus in somewhere in Spain or Greece or something like that. Like it was already built into the design of his school that this was something that he could do somewhere that he could go, and it could be a part of his curriculum. And so I kind of feel like my experience with state trying to get signatures and study abroad was an opportunity for improvement. Because it was just like nobody knew what I was trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Like they were like, "Are you going to California? Like, are you doing a semester away?" I was like, "No, I'm going to Europe." Like I had to kind of say it like that, like, you know, and I'm not the one to brag or nothing like that. So I wasn't really trying to go in there like, "I'm going to Europe. I need you to do," you know what I'm saying? I was kind of like, "Hey, I've told this is your office." Like they were calling different people trying to figure out if this was even a form that they needed to sign because they never seen it, you know? So I think there's a process that needs to kind of be fixed, number one, but also I it's not something that's like talked about enough, you know? Like I was trying to get my classes to transfer over, and I mean, in the School of Business, you know, Dr. Guwa, like he was educated in Europe too. So he was able to kind of look at my class offerings and tell me that you should take this class because this is closest to it. This sounds like this, and you can go. So he was able to really help me in that regard. But like, not everybody has that in their department or has the ability to, you know, has access to a professor who has already had that experience. And I think another opportunity for state is like my grades transferred back over as letter grades. You know, I feel like that's very discouraging to any student who's already scared or concerned about going somewhere, like being in a foreign place, you know, to go to school or whatever. Like it's kind of discouraging to think that you're going to have to go through the experiential learning part and, you know, the culture shock and everything else, but then also have to be able to focus in a classroom so that you can come back with this letter grade that's going to affect your GPA. So I think there's a lot of wiggle room in there that I think there are certain structures in place that, you know, just kind of historically have been that way or whatever, what have you, that are also barriers to students wanting to have this experience, you know, like, I mean, I was shocked and appalled when I came back and I realized that I didn't read the fine print that said that this D I got was going to be a D on my transcript. So it's just kind of stuff like that, you know. So it's a lot of things that from an institutional standpoint that could be done, not necessarily just incorporating it into your curriculum and, you know, not just that and encouraging it, but it's also kind of like the access of saying like, hey, yes, this is something you can do. You know, I think you should do it. Like this goes well with your major because it would make sense if you did X, Y, and Z, and just kind of like opening that door. I'm not saying that state should go out and try to find land in Florence and build a university or whatever, but like at least having a conversation with students to say like, okay, you know, if your degree is in journalism or international business, you know, like the international business curriculum should include an option to spend a semester in the country of your choosing. You know what I'm saying? Like there should be certain programs or certain things in place that add on to your curriculum the option to go somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like that should be something that's already discussed and built in.
Yeah, and going off of that, I feel like it starts like the first thing is, and I can speak for state, of course, because, you know, that's where I went, that like being educated on study abroad as a whole with state and like you having issues with trying to get signatures and then not knowing. I feel like personally that's the issue because I've been able to go to these 2 different trips and well, of course we had a trip for Tokyo, but we couldn't go. I feel like a lot of people just don't understand the importance of it. So like education on that first with professors, with advisors, things like that, because then you're able to persuade your students to go to things in different majors, things like that. So I think being educated on it first That's where it starts.
Yeah.
Dude, could you repeat that question for me? I'm sorry. I'm working currently and kind of doing some damage control a little bit, so I've been on my phone. Repeat the question for me.
All is well. All is well. I was
working.
just asking about we were talking about our experience traveling abroad actually being considered experiential learning, and so how can we now encourage our professors, not only our professors currently in college, but even those that are in high school and maybe even earlier, to now include studying abroad somewhere in your syllabus, wherein we can now get ourselves, let's specify it this way, the African American community, more prepared and competent for life after college.
Oh, I don't have an answer. I just want to know the question again. Because I missed it. It went over my head. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good, man.
It's okay. James, come on now.
Lord. So I need you to ask the question
again. So how can we propose this to professors, instructors, teachers to say, hey, study abroad is something that you need to implement into your curriculum, because this is how we can now get our African American community more prepared and competitive once they graduate from college?
So I would say first we need to start out with giving them the opportunity, because it's hard to get buy-in to something from people who have never experienced it.
That's powerful.
And this is something that I've noticed for South Carolina State, even in my department, a lot of the teachers are from South Carolina. They stay in South Carolina. They ain't never been outside of South Carolina.
You're throwing shade now.
I'm not. Listen, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's hard to get somebody to say, this is vital for my program, if they haven't implemented in their personal life.
That's true.
Correct.
So if you ain't never been out the state, what it look like trying to convince you to say your students need to go out the country?
Yeah.
So I feel like giving the professors the opportunity to even do a short, maybe a week or two immersion in another culture to see what the benefit is, even though it's a short thing. I feel like that would be something that they do over the summer, that so they can prepare and be like, okay, this is really worth it. I see what they're talking about. Let me figure out a way to say this is what we need in our program or whatever. So I feel like they're the first line of defense on that one. That would be my suggestion.
All right. Speaking from the School of Business, well, in that department, it felt like we was already studying abroad, because every professor was from somewhere. But no, James, piggybacking off what you said, kind of implementing those professors, giving them the opportunity to actually go abroad to get a firsthand experience will help. But also, even in certain courses like our international business, like understanding certain things, and maybe like China, going to China, understand that we receive most of our import, maybe 80% of our import from China, and understanding how China affect our economy. Like as right now, the pandemic is going on. They shut down borders. China was unsuccessful in bringing things in. So I feel like if students maybe have traveled to China or went to certain places, that have a more broad understanding of things that go on in in the world. So
that's a good point. All right, so for our last couple of minutes, about 15 minutes, I want to see if anybody has any questions. Dr. Hopkins, if you're still there, do you have any questions? I would love to bring you on if you were open to it, because he has a great perspective on study abroad. It's wonderful so Dr. Hopkins just said, it's wonderful that students advocate for integrating study abroad as campus experiences. However, it is imperative that institutions, administrators, faculty, and staff take the lead on internationalizing the campus and curriculum. I agree.
Start at home. That's powerful.
Yeah, it starts at home. Any questions in the comments you all want to ask the panelists? We have some people here that are willing to answer what they can. So any questions? Anybody? And y'all want to share while we just waiting on the questions? anything that y'all have on your heart. Let's talk about the food while we're waiting on some questions.
Ooh,
Y'all, I'm a
really
picky
mixture.
eater. I eat nothing. And
Can't
when I went to
relate.
Greece, I don't eat sauce. I just don't eat a lot of things. And when I went to Greece, like I literally couldn't eat the food. I ate churros and fries every day, but I was surprised. Yeah, I know. I was
Girl.
surprised how cheap it was. It was literally $2.50 for churro, fries, and a drink. And I was satisfied with that. But like the food that they had set up for us, I just couldn't eat all of that stuff. Now Costa Rica, it was just good. I ate
Food was
everything that
lit.
they had there.
Food was
The food
lit.
was so
Look
good
at
in Costa
James.
Rica. But Greece, no.
I know at least for the Netherlands, I'm not sure how many other European countries, GMOs are illegal, like genetically modified foods and stuff.
Yeah.
So everything that I ate was fresh to some degree. Like it was very fresh. And the cost of groceries is a lot less over there than it is here. So I had to, because they're fresh, if I didn't eat something in a week, it was gonna spoil. So I was grocery shopping every week. And normally that would annoy me. And like now in my comfortable living, I use Shipt. But over there, like I was buying groceries every other week, and like I would go to there. So in Amsterdam, there are markets everywhere. Like they're either like flea markets where you can go and get things, or they're food markets, like outside food markets. And so I would on any given, like I said, I only have class 2 days a week. So like on Friday when I woke up, I would do like my exploring and maybe my grocery shopping. And then on Saturday, I would go to the markets. And so I was going to the markets and getting like fresh ravioli and, and fresh cheese to make pasta when I got home. Like I was doing stuff like that. And that only cost me like 10 euros. You know what I'm saying? I'm walking out of this fresh market looking at like these fresh baked goods or, your fresh pasta and something else. And I'm headed home to cook this and eat it for like the next couple of days. Like food was good, but it was healthier for you. So I mean, I'm not saying that like I was over there on a diet or anything like that, but like I could tell that my body was feeling different. Like I could just feel that I felt good. And when I came back, like even like I don't eat McDonald's on a regular, but like I had like the friend that I met over there, she was Black too. So like whenever we did certain things, it was me and like the one other Black girl in my program. Like she would just kind of like take us around a little bit, and like we would go places. And I don't know, we stopped at McDonald's one time, and like I ate it, and I realized that it wasn't terrible.
The McDonald's tastes so
It
different
tastes so good in other
else
countries.
in the world.
It tastes good in other countries. I'm sick by that one. So, like it was just kind of experiencing that. But then like coming back to America and like trying to eat certain things, my stomach didn't like it. Like there are certain things that I can't eat anymore because my stomach does not like it. So I don't know, like the food was really an experience. And then the Dutch is known for Heineken and beer. So another very crazy aspect that I got to experience was like whenever we had school sanctioned events, they used to give us drink tokens. Like you could use a token to get a beer or some type of wine, and they gave you at least 3. So like drinking is just a part of their culture. It's just something that they do. It's just something that they do, and like it's not taboo. It's not weird. Nobody's at the school function getting drunk or asking for more tokens, something like that. Like it's just a part of their culture and how they socialize with each other.
All right. So,
go ahead.
Quick thing for our last 10 minutes. I want you all to, in your own words, if you can kind of make your own words be kind of brief because we want to cover it all. In your own words, what would you say to a student that says, "I want to study abroad, James, Caleb, Greg, Chandler, Julie, but I have some fears"? What is your advice to them? James, you can go first.
Only thing you have to fear is fear itself. Get your butt out there, get on that plane, and have the time of your life.
There you go.
That's it. I kept it short, like you said.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm gonna try and keep it short. I would say you're not doing yourself any favors or any service by staying at home addressing fears or talking about your fears when you don't want to address them. The world is too big and the world is too great and there's too much to see and learn for, to be neglected. And you're neglecting yourself by not seeing what else the world has to offer. So that should be your biggest fear.
That's
That was good. That was good. Hey, Caleb, I feel like you got something stirring up over there. Let me hear something.
Drop it, bro. Drop it. Drop the heat.
I see it on you.
No, I really didn't have too much to say, but in regards to it, just letting them know the same fear that they have can happen here or it can happen there. So it can happen either way you want it. It's possible to happen anywhere. Why not take a chance?
Right.
That's all I got.
Take the chance.
To piggyback off of, everything else, all of that and the bag of chips. I guess I'll just go back and reiterate my first point is that if your fear is not being liked or accepted or, looked at crazy, whatever, you're going to be Black today, tomorrow, next year, when you die. Like you being Black should not be a part of your fears or the excuse that you make for not wanting to go somewhere.
Yeah. That should only encourage you to go further.
It really should, it really should.
I would honestly say, I would just ask him, what do you have to lose? Like, if you really want to experience something in life, like, you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to, just shake that feeling of being scared. Like, there's something that we're all scared about as people, but like, you're never gonna, combat anything if you don't, go out and just get out of your comfort zone. So yeah, I just ask them, what do they have to lose? Honestly,
what do you have to lose?
In life. Yeah.
I probably wouldn't even talk to that person, to be completely honest.
What?
I probably wouldn't even talk to that person. Like, you telling me, you can't go nowhere because you're fearful. Well, then that ends the conversation, because there's nothing I can tell you that, you just have to do it at this point.
Yeah.
I'm kind of that way, though. I could be kind of like, dog, get on my face. I don't care.
And I was going to say,
you're not. There's nothing more. I can't help you.
And see, I'm kind of like on the opposite end with that, because I feel like I understand what you're saying, because like what you got to be scared for, it's not that deep. But then it's like, like during this study abroad, it was literally like 5 other people that I was like, y'all, like, let's just y'all gonna have fun. We could do this, we could do that. You can't do that in Orangeburg. Like, you got to make them want to go somewhere. And I know you
entice them.
You shouldn't have to,
has to be appealing.
But that's the world we live in now. And if you want your people to experience things, then you kind of just got to say, hey,
definitely,
what you got to lose?
Yeah, and I remember how long it took us to convince my grandmother to get on that cruise ship.
85 years.
That's what plays in my mind. Like, we talked her up. We told her we had to give her all types of incentives. We was like, Grandma, you're not gonna feel it rocking. We gonna pay for your ticket. You ain't gotta worry about nothing. We were fighting with her. I'm not getting out there on that water. If I can't drink it, it's too much water.
Yo, that's what my mom said.
And I'm just over
Grandma
here
had
like,
all
okay.
incentives.
She had all the excuses, but I do remember that if you've been in a place so long that sometimes, like, leaving your familiar bondage is scary.
Yeah, and that's
so I understand that some people have gotten so comfortable where they are that anything outside of that, even though that may, this is somebody's norm. My house is a norm too, but you just know this norm. So I open you up to another norm, but you don't want to go out because you're not used to it. So anything outside of your norm, even if it may be completely normal, is still scary. So I realized that people have to deal with that. And so, like I said, I always think of my grandmother. It took us about 6 months to convince her that she was going on that cruise anyway, and she just didn't know it. But yeah, so I always think about that, because some people they've never had the opportunity or even the inkling of being able to get out of where they are.
Yeah. So I think one quote, man, that I really can just rest in tonight and just really flip back the pages of this conversation, and it'll continuously really trigger some in me. Chandler, can you please give that quote again? You said you use your unfamiliarity as the foundation for you to grasp. Yes, ma'am.
I'm glad you let down because I'd be off the dome.
I mean, that's so good though, because like literally, I can give one example. When we were in Amsterdam, we flew there, and it was like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And when we got there, our entire team was thinking, you know what I'm saying, we've been flying for like maybe 8, 9, 10,
like
11
9 hours.
Like 9 hours, right? And so
Yeah.
we're tired. People are, aggravated. They grumpy. They done turned green. You know what I'm saying? Literally, people have turned green. Just joking. And so we're thinking we're going to the hotel. Oh, no, sir.
That's the
No,
beginning
buddy.
of your day.
I remember Caleb called me about that.
Right. We didn't go into the hotels, right? And so we're walking around. We're touring the city, and as we're touring the city, there's nobody out there. It's just dead silence. And so what I'm trying to get to is, from that day, we literally took our unfamiliarity and as foundation to push us, because that next day, it was Brandon Galloway, Jeremy, and we looked at some people riding some bikes. We said, "Hey man, look, let's ride bikes. We'll ride bikes. We'll go to the store." You know what I'm saying? We're gonna use this moment for us to be able to engage even more with their culture, and we met so many people. Our experience was just like Caleb, and so I'll just kind of rest in that quote. Chandler is like using our unfamiliarity as foundation, for us to grasp even the more where we are.
So dude,
anybody else?
But before you go, can you tell them more about the bike ride?
Oh man,
bikes for real.
Oh Lord.
Are you talking Jeremy Fail?
I can't ride a bike.
Listen, if you can't ride a bike, do not ride a bike in Amsterdam. They hate tourists.
God.
They hate people who can't ride bikes. Don't clog their bike lane. They will cuss you out and knock
You
you
will
over.
get hit by a bike in Amsterdam before you get hit by a car.
Oh no, seriously. It's like herds of bikes. Yeah, seriously.
Wow.
But there's about 3 minutes left, and I just want to tell you all, thank you for coming on this what we call now the PENS Program podcast. And so we're going to have weekly topics about, James, we've transitioned to a podcast now.
Excuse me.
We
transition.
Right, we transition. And so we're going to have weekly topics like this, and just having you all on, I sincerely believe that somebody's going to come back and watch it and say, I may possibly travel because of Chandler, James, Caleb, Greg, and even Julie, and we need that. Dr. Hopkins said earlier, it's only 1% of us, that are traveling abroad. And we need, just like Chandler said, you're going to be Black everywhere. And so we need for us, wherever we are, we need for us to be on point. And I'll say this really quickly. Dr. Hopkins said this point, and it changed my whole perspective about going abroad. He said, every person is an international student somewhere.
That's it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Every person on this world is an international student somewhere. So we really don't have to fear as much as we think we do, because we have something in common. And so, again, thank you all for coming on. You did a great job
tonight. Thank you for having us, man.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Let me take a moment of personal privilege to thank one you do for getting this together, but also let me just shout out Matthew and Isaac, who do such a great work to ensure that African American students have access to global travel. They work tirelessly to ensure that the African American students have access. And so, just to shamelessly plug them real quick, if you're interested in going to Liberia, Isaac Taggart, Matthew Wallenhouse.
That was on my mind.
Yeah,
that was on my mind. Planting the Seed International. I'm glad you brought it up. We want to shout them out. If you guys are interested in traveling to Africa, specifically Liberia, and I think they have a trip to Senegal. Those are two guys, man. They have an awesome program. You'll go and you won't only just travel, man, but you'll have an opportunity to do community service, to meet political officials as well. And so, I mean, it's a really compact week of events, man, and you will leave inspired. I promise you will. So shout out to them and what they're doing. Thank you, Greg, for bringing that up. Yeah. Anybody else have any final words as we close tonight?
No, just thank you for thinking of me, thinking of all of us.
Thank you.
I will say also, like, if you're afraid to go by yourself, go with a friend. Y'all can y'all can have fun together, y'all can suffer together, but either way, you'll have a pal.
Listen, invite me.
Listen, James, where we going next? When we going to Egypt?
What's crazy is, Chandler, what's crazy is sometimes the suffering is more fun than the fun.
Listen.
That's a word, though. I'm going to just let that sit real quick. I'm going to just let that sink over real quick. All right. But I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great evening, man. And hey,
bye,
we have to do another one of these.
Bye, everybody.
All right. See y'all. Have fun.
Y'all stay clean.
All right, good.